another edition of the Rockin' Rewind podcast. Here's your host, James Poovey and Ray Miranda.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Rockin' Rewind podcast. James Poovey here alongside my co-host, Mr. Ray Miranda. Ray, we're going to have fun tonight. We have a very special guest joining us, Mr. Fred Kuhlman, a longtime Valley photographer, who's going to talk to us tonight. And he's provided us with some really good shots we're going to talk about. And we're just excited to get to know him and what he's all about and some of his unique experiences here behind the lens, if you will.
Right. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Normally I'd be bringing some news or some tour dates or something here, but I don't want to waste Fred's time. I'm really interested in talking to him, see what he's got going on. He's been around doing this for a long time and got a lot of history and knowledge just about music in general, especially here in the Valley. So
absolutely.
Let's get to him.
We were blessed to run into him at the Dream Theater show back on the 2nd of February, just over a month ago now, and a great connection we made there. So let's bring him on here, Mr. Fred Kuhlman. Fred, how are you doing tonight?
Doing very well, thank you.
All right. We appreciate you joining us, man. We were excited to talk to you and get to know what it's like as a photographer in the music scene. You know, that's a different angle, no pun intended, from a typical fan's perspective, you know, be it the fan being a musician or a non-musician. So just let's rewind a little bit before that here on the Rockin' Rewind podcast and tell us how you got into photography and specifically music photography and kind of what led you down that road.
Well, I've always enjoyed music. Probably dates back into the mid-'60s. My sister is 6 years older than I am, and she came of age during the Beatles and all of the British Invasion #1. And so I got to listen to all the Beatles, Kinks, Rolling Stones, and then I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and just across the river from Detroit is a place called Windsor, Ontario. And they had a radio station, CKLW up there, which was a top 40 station. And they played also a lot of Motown because it was so close to Detroit.
Okay.
And so with the AM radio, which is the only thing we had in the 60s, mid-60s, we got to listen to a lot of that kind of music. And then probably Ed Sullivan was a huge influence because seeing all these rock bands and everything perform on Ed Sullivan, and then later going to the other shows that were on American Bandstand and things like that, I really got into the music and enjoyed it.
Yeah, Ed Sullivan seems like he kicked off a lot of people's careers. You know, the guy, man, I can't even tell you how many times I've read that someone saw Ed Sullivan with the Beatles specifically, and man, it just started off a lot of careers. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So keep.
That's okay. Got a funny story about the Ed Sullivan show.
All right, that's what we're here for, man.
I'm actually old enough to remember when Elvis Presley was first on there.
Okay.
And my father, he was like, "Turn that off. That's not good music. Just turn that off." And so the second time he was on, we had it on, but my father was in the kitchen. And he goes to my mom, he goes, "I really like that guy's voice. He's really good." And my mom goes, "That's the guy you told him to turn off last time."
And little did they know, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the Ed Sullivan show was huge for the Beatles and a number of other people as well. Go ahead, go ahead there, Fred.
And I was never really artistically and talented at all. I tried playing piano and I was miserable. I'm that klutz that has two left feet and can't hold a tune if you wanted me to. Okay. But I found that I really enjoyed taking pictures. At the time, I was first given one of those 110 Instamatic cameras, and talk about a real joke. But I mean, they were big back then in the late '60s and everything else. And I really enjoyed doing that. We traveled a lot. My father was on the road quite a bit and everything, and we as a family traveled. And so I got to see many things and photograph different things.
Mm.
And so that's really how the love of photography came about.
So
Did
you
you
were
have any proper training or anything with photography, or did you just kind of pick up the camera and run with it and just start shooting things that maybe made you happy or made you feel good? And then how did you kind of critique yourself or try and make yourself better in that respect?
I always had a good grasp of what looked good as far as a photograph or art. I didn't really go for the impressionist. I didn't go for any of the blue phase that all these artists and everything went through. I always loved the natural look and being able to see scenery the way you and I perceive it through our eyes. And so I could look at a picture and I could tell if it had an emotional attachment or not, or if it was just good from a technical standpoint. It was real hard in the early days of film because we didn't really have much back then that was really that good. And when we did, it was like Kodachrome 25 and Kodachrome 64, which were very, very slow films. I mean, you had to have a lot of light. You had to have a camera on a tripod. And it really made taking photographs a pain. So,
and for kids that are watching this that are before the digital age or
Yeah.
that don't have any experience, this is when Fred could go to a show and he could either shoot 12 or 24 pictures and he had to pick, and that was it. You couldn't just shoot unlimited pictures and just let the camera snap all you wanted to, right, Fred?
correct. Also, we had limited lenses that we could use. So, I mean, we didn't have a lot of fancy camera equipment. I mean, the digital cameras today are 10 times better than what I started out with when I was.
Phone cameras probably are better.
Some of the new iPhones and Samsung phones are really good at taking pictures. You can't blow them up, but they take good pictures if you're going to show them on your cell phone and maybe even computer.
Yeah.
Huh. And I always carry a cell phone with me just in case.
Right. So you started off with the Instamatic there, and then so how did it kind of move on to the next? Did you do all through high school and everything? Did you take photography in high school and all that?
I have zero formal training.
Oh, wow.
I have never
in your picture,
really taken a class at all in photography.
Yeah. We're going to take a look at some of your shots here in just a little bit, Fred, but so no formal training whatsoever. You just you picked up the camera and you had an instant passion for it and you kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah. The only thing I had was I had a fantastic art teacher in high school. And he taught shadows, he taught the rule of thirds, he gave perspective and things like that. And that I use a lot of that in what I was doing originally when I was picking up the camera and trying to figure it out. But the one thing people have to remember is for concerts, a lot of it is just pure luck. Getting that shot is pure luck. Yes, it takes experience to know what to look for and watching the bands and seeing how the band performs so that you can react to what is going on. But to get that one shot, to get that really beautiful shot where their eyes are open, they're looking intently. I mean, they got the action going or whatever. It takes a certain amount of luck.
Okay.
Maybe something like this right here, possibly.
Oh, Alice, yes, that I love that Alice photograph. Um,
Let's try that one more
yeah,
time
I was
here.
gonna say, show that a little longer.
moment.
Yeah,
Let's try
But,
that one more time. There we go. That's
there
better.
we go. All right. Yeah.
I got that at a concert here in town, probably like 2017. He was in a show with Deep Purple, I believe it was.
Oh wow.
Hey, I would have liked to see that.
What venue
And
was that, Fred?
Akchin
Okay.
Pavilion. But I had seen Alice a number of times. I mean, I kind of grew up with Alice. He was on what was the name of that show? It was in the 72. It started. I want to say Midnight Special. Don Kirshner's.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's when I first saw Alice. I mean, he came out with Killer and everything else, and I love the moves and everything else that he did, and he is so much expression on stage as because he's both an actor and a singer.
He's a true performer, isn't he?
He truly is a great true performer, and so you kind of learn the movements that they make and things like that. And one of the greatest shows I've ever seen is an Alice show. It was down in Tucson at the community center. It was his I want to get the name of it correct here. Welcome to My Nightmare, the original.
Okay. Wow.
And it's actually where he met his wife, because his wife was one of the dancers at the show.
Interesting.
But it was a huge stage production. He had dancers. I think he had the guillotine at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all this stuff, and he had all these people in costumes like spiders coming out on the stage and everything. Unfortunately, I never got to photograph that show, but just seeing it and everything was just amazing. And like I said, watching Alice, watching YouTube videos, I kind of understand how his movements go. And so this shot right here was just, I knew something was going to happen like this. And so I waited, and he did it, and I got it.
So you're literally holding the camera and waiting for that moment, kind of watching his body language and saying, okay, he's going to freeze here in 3, 2, 1, grab it.
Correct.
Wow.
One of the harder.
You know what's always so hard for me, Ray, especially concert photos? I haven't taken one good concert photo in my life because I cannot take a low light photo to save my life.
Right, Jeff, just so you know, or Fred, I'm sorry. Just so you know, like James and I, when we went to a show together, but when we go separate, we try to take some footage so we can use for this podcast. And, usually it's far away, or I have one good shot of Petrucci, not from this last show, but a while back that was really good. And the problem was I couldn't anyway take pictures because security in previous times, not this last concert, I think they were told to settle down a little bit. But man, you in that particular arena, the hall, the one out in Mesa there, man, you pull your phone out, boom, hey, you can't, they slap it away. So it's
iPhone,
hard.
please.
It's hard, man. And so anyway, yeah, man, for you to be able to do, you got we saw you running around down there.
And tell us that's another question, Fred. Tell us how that works. Is it like a typical media credential when you want to go shoot a show? Do you have to contact the venue and say, hey, I'm with, Beneath the Desert Sky, which we'll talk about as well in the name of your website, beneaththedesertsky.com. Some great stuff there from Fred Kuhlman. Do you get credentialed like a normal media person does, or do you have to actually get tickets to the show? Or tell us how that works.
Okay, I do get media credentials. Okay, but it depends on the venue that I'm going to. Celebrity theater, I go through the venue. Talking Stick, the casino part of it, not the arena, I have to go through the venue.
Okay.
Most of the other ones, I go through the publicist, where I actually contact the publicist to get approval for a band. An example is Judas Priest will be here next week and a half. I think.
Well, we'll talk about them in a minute because
they're
canceled, right?
To get the approval.
Okay.
So that's kind of the difference, and a lot of it is just time working your contacts. It's you're almost like a salesman at the same time. You're sitting there, you're selling yourself to either the band, the promoter, the venue, basically saying, I'm going to take these pictures, I'm going to write this review, I'm going to make this show look good, I'm going to make your venue look good.
And is that where they kind of set the limits on where you can shoot, or as much access as the band is going to grant you for that night? Whether you can be, on the tour bus after the show, or you're allowed to be, front row and center during the show, and then once it's over, you have to, that's the end of your night. How does that work?
Typical, and when I say typical, probably 99%. First 3 songs I get to shoot from either the concert pit, which is the area between the stage and where the fans are, and it's usually blocked off with a security kind of gate thing,
right?
Or I shoot from the soundboard, and it's only the first 3 songs. So that typically kind of limits what you can do, and that's usually set by the promoter, the band, and the tour manager. And one thing that
interesting,
I'll go in a little later about how all that stuff can be changed at the last second. But right now, that we'll just say that is basically the same thing, except for somebody like Dream Theater, where instead of the first 3 songs, which could be 30 minutes, they say 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so they set a hard time limit then.
They set a hard time limit.
Yeah. So you're not, so nothing the rest of the show.
Nothing the rest of the show.
Do you get to stay down there?
They give me a ticket where I can sit because I am reviewing the show.
All right.
I do have a partner that writes reviews every once in a while. So like we just did the Kiss show not a couple months ago. He got the ticket to sit in the seats and review the whole show. I only got to go there for the first 3 songs and photograph, and then I had to leave.
You had to leave out of the venue?
I had to leave out of the venue.
Oh man.
Do you think that's common knowledge to the band that they'll only be photographed for the first 3 songs? And do you think that might affect the set list in any way, or the set list design?
I don't think so. But from the band's point of view, we're an annoyance. We're there. We are right at the stage. We are poking a camera in their face.
And you're getting in the way of their connection between them and the fans. Correct.
And so at that point, they tolerate us for the first 3 songs, and then they want us off.
So, okay, all right. Well, I mean, I guess I got it.
You never think about these things, Ray, from that perspective of someone trying to because what he's trying to do, he's trying to, like he said, make the show look good, make the show sound good, for lack of a better term, and he does that through his photography, and so they should be appreciating what he's doing when consequently they're saying, hey, you get 15 minutes and then we want you to get out of the way.
Okay, so Fred, let me ask you something. So big magazines, like, I don't even know if they exist in Guitar World and all these
Creators, Circus
in existence. I don't know if they still are or not. You're telling me that do they treat them the same way?
Yes, we're all treated the exact same way.
Okay, I would never have thought
Interesting.
that.
I mean,
I am always going to pay attention to that now. Every time I go to a show, the first 15 minutes and then just watch the camera guys scatter from the front of the stage because time's up.
well, the Innings Festival, I was photographing with people that worked for AP, USA Today, a couple other magazines, and then there were a bunch of us that had our own website or were freelance. We all got treated the exact same. When the first three songs were over, security came, looked at us, gave us the boot.
Off you go.
And is Kiss the only one that kicked you out?
No, that's quite common. That if you don't have a ticket, you have to leave the venue.
Okay, all right.
It's not. I do not want to say anything bad about Kiss. They were very nice, and they did exactly what they agreed to do, which is you got one ticket for doing a review and one ticket for doing our one pass to get in. And a lot of it is due to like when the Republic would come in and photograph or something like that, you would have two different people. You'd have one person reviewing and one person photographing.
Mm-hmm.
And the photographer always left.
Wow.
Unless you had a ticket.
Unless you had a ticket. Okay.
Yeah,
wow. Okay. All
Let's
right.
take a look at some of your other stuff here, Fred. You were kind enough to send us some of your favorite shots. We wanted to kind of get your memories on these, and as far as the evening, or maybe I'm sure you probably had stuff happen before a show, whether you didn't almost make the show, or it was one that you wanted to see, and oh man, I really want to photograph this, and I got a dead battery on the I-10. It's 115 outside. I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff you've been through.
Oh yeah. For this particular shot, I actually got to meet Al and his son Matt. This is actually the last show they did here at the MIM. And they're actually using this photo for some of their promotional work for when the band goes out.
And this this looks like it's in Mesa, is that correct?
No, this is at the MIM, the Musical Instrument Museum.
Oh, the museum. Okay. Yeah, I've never been there, man. I'm gonna go check that
That's
place.
fantastic.
Oh, it's a fantastic venue to see a concert. It is really, really good. The lighting is great, the seating is great, and the sound is fantastic.
How many people does it have?
I'm gonna say around 400.
Okay, so it's kind of a smaller.
Yeah, it's a smaller venue.
Okay.
I was absolutely sick, Fred. I heard about a week after the show that Eric Johnson had just played the Musical Instrument Museum, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I missed that show. That was a couple of years ago now, but it would have been. I've been to the museum, but I haven't actually seen the show there, but I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, he did an acoustic set that night.
Wow.
Mm.
But
were you taking pictures then?
Yes, that's actually the review, and the pictures are on my website.
Okay.
But what I wanted to talk about with this one, this is that 1% show. Because I talked to both Al and Matt, they let me photograph the entire show.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
And this one was, I actually went all the way up to the top of the venue where the soundboard was, and I was taking this particular picture. And at the same time, I was also videotaping Good Vibrations, that song, for the Jardines, so that they could put it on their website.
Mm.
How about that?
Ooh, man, that's a great picture.
Like I said, this is the 1% show where I get to shoot the whole. I get to shoot the whole show, and a lot of this is because of connections I make.
Okay.
And
whether that be through the venue or through the artist or the management or whatever.
Yes, but they did a meet and greet after the first show that they did there, I think in 15 or 16. And I actually got to talk to Matt, and I got to talk to Al. And then the next show, I got to show them some of the pictures that I actually did, and they liked them so much.
Now you're in.
I've now got contact with their actual tour manager.
Oh, nice.
So it's all just a networking thing. I mean, that's got to be a big portion of it too, I imagine. I mean, obviously you can apply for credentials like a normal media person would, but it's those special relationships like you have with Danny Zalisco, where you can call up Danny if there's a show you want to go shoot, and I bet you that you're in there.
Not always, but I have a good working relationship with Danny and his people. They're great people. And because of that, I get more access than, say, just Joe Blow off the street.
Right.
And,
yeah, he's a really nice guy. We
one of
met
the
him.
other things that I will say, I never write a bad review. Okay. I have been at some shows that are iffy. Typically, what I do is under those shows, the review becomes more of a technical review than it is what my feeling of the show was and how I reacted to the show.
Right.
Right.
Less emotion, less emotional reaction type of review, right? Where you're trying to be on a positive note.
Yeah, I will at least not be negative.
Right.
And to be honest, there's only one concert I ever walked out of.
Well, what was that?
Baby Metal.
Oh,
I've never heard of Baby Metal.
I have
it's
a
a Japanese girl band. They have 2 or 3 girl singers, and they giggle. And I'm sorry, I just could not deal with giggling at a metal show.
I'll be honest with you guys. I have a friend of mine that wanted me to go to that, and I'm like, I didn't know who they were. So and then I was listening to them a little bit, and I'm like, oh, come on, man, come on, go. So I actually it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was actually, I'm gonna tell you right now, the guitar player was outstanding.
Oh, the musicians are great.
Yeah, I didn't hear any giggling, but I can understand what the appeal is to especially the younger kid. But man, I looked around at people like my age there. I'm like,
oh yeah,
wow, crazy. And they were very aggressive, and I'm not going to buy their album now, but I understand why you walked out.
How metal was it though? Aside from the cackling or whatever that was coming through the microphones.
Oh, it's heavy music, man.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I was actually there for the first band, Avatar. I love them. They are a great band. And
what was the name of that again? What were the name of them?
Avatar.
Oh, Avatar. Okay. Yes.
They're the ones that were dressed up in different outfits.
Yeah. And now, how long ago was this that you went to see Baby Metal?
It was at the Marquee, and it was like 18. I think it was 2018.
That might have been the one I went to.
Well, it's the only time Baby Metal has been here.
Okay. I think that was the one I went to. And Avatar, yes, I remember them. They were pretty good. I was like, all right, And
another one of your photos here that piqued my interest, Fred, was Carl Palmer. I mean, a legend behind the drum kit. And just look at the sharpness. I mean, how do you adjust the lighting? Let's get back to that for a second. How do you get this kind of shot right here? Not knowing what's coming from the lighting rig or anything like that. Like, I know you said there's a lot of luck involved, but there's a little bit of skill there too. There's a couple settings you have to dial in on that Nikon.
There's first off, I don't use Nikon.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't want to ruin his Canon sponsorship. I'm not mad at you, Fred.
This was actually taken with a Canon. And you are right. It sometimes it's very, very hard taking the photos. Luckily, this one was at Talking Stick Arena, our Talking Stick showroom out at the casino.
Casino, yeah.
They have excellent lighting. And that night, Carl had great lighting on him. And
I mean,
there's certain times where you can just tell that the lighting's going to change, because they do a lot of rhythm in the lighting, where they go through and they cycle through and they do certain things, or certain parts of the music will automatically bring up better lighting, and you wait for those moments. And when you get that moment, you take it, and then you just pray that you hit it.
And you
the
obviously
hardest thing is getting their eyes open, because you get a lot of artists that'll sit there and they'll put their head down while they're playing the guitar, and you can't see their eyes or anything. And one of the things I try to do is get the facial expression and the eyes.
Yeah, that's a great shot of his eyes right there.
Absolutely nailed it right there. I mean, one of the most challenging parts, it's got to be at least, is trying to photograph drummers, because they're so active with their hands and their feet, and you can't hardly stop them from moving unless the song's over. And then if the song's over, typically the lights are off or down or whatever the case may be. Not a opportunistic photography moment, but right here, you just absolutely nailed it.
Drummers are the hard, because like you said, they're not necessarily, they're moving a lot. They're also typically at the back of the stage, so you got to have a longer lens to be able to get them. And a lot of times they're not well lit. You get your front people that are lit, your singer, your lead guitarist, something like that's lit. Drummers usually don't get lit. Carl, on the other hand, I mean, he is the guy. Okay, he it's his show, so I mean, he's lit.
He is legitimately lit. He is a fantastic drummer. I had the pleasure of seeing him in 06 out at the Roxy in LA. That was a fantastic. It was just his solo gig, and that was a good time.
I imagine, Fred, that you probably have to know some of the, at least a good majority of their catalog. So because on certain, when these guys play songs, when there's some emphasis on things, the lights will do, certain things. And I would think that if you know the catalog a little bit anyway, that you okay, probably right here, they're going to do something or whatever, I don't know. I don't know if that's a deal or not.
Well, you're right. You got to understand your subject, and you have to go and you have to at least listen to their music ahead of time. When I'm doing a new band, I will always try to listen to their album ahead of time, their latest album ahead of time, just to get an idea of what the songs are. And you can usually get a rhythm, and you can kind of tell, like the lead singer, when they're going to do something, or the guitarist is going to do something. You can usually pick that out, and so you can be prepared for when you start to hear it.
Okay. Yeah, I would. And I think that'd be kind of tough for maybe some EDM stuff, or maybe some kind of music that you're not really into. Like maybe, I don't know what you really like, indie stuff or whatever, that maybe is not as appealing to you as some other things that you have to sit there and go, okay, let me listen to this, and
there's been many bands that when
I
get the list of here's all the bands that are coming to town, I will actually sit there and I will listen to, okay, here's the headliner, and I'll listen to their last two albums. And it's like, if I don't like their music, I won't put in for the show.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of it comes down to, I don't want to write a bad review.
Right. Good.
And so now somebody like Carl Palmer, I have been a huge ELP fan from almost day one. Okay. I saw him do a show in 1974 when they did Welcome Back, My Friends, to the show that never ends. I saw that in Tucson, and I was just amazed by that show. Again, it's one of my better shows that I've ever seen. But then I've seen them a number of other times when they came through the valley. Unfortunately, both Keith and Greg are now gone. and Caro is trying to keep the legacy going, and he's got two amazing, well, the guitarist and the bass player are just truly amazing talents that he brings with him.
Well, they are prog. Some of the original prog. Like Yes, and they were kind of out of that same vein there, which is music that both James and I really enjoy, and along with some of the older stuff. But yeah, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, man, they were
Another good band. We're
Yeah.
visiting here with Fred Kuhlman from Beneath the Desert Sky Photography. Fred, tell us, do you have a favorite venue here in the Valley that you like to shoot at? Or maybe what's your favorite venue that you shot a concert at?
I love the Celebrity Theater because it's got a beautiful sound system. The people are great to deal with. And I get to sit.
I was going to say there's not a lot of room down there for you to move around.
No, you can move around for those people that don't know, the Celebrity Theater is one of the only two venues in North America or in the United States that has a rotating stage.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
The band is in the middle of this venue on this round stage, and it'll rotate. And there are actually a number of funny stories about that.
Well, yeah, let's hear that.
The latest funny story was the Michael Nesmith and Mickey Dolenz had a Monkees tour, and this was just prior to Mike dying. And it was probably one of the last tours. Well, it was the last tour Mike did. Mickey Dolenz has a inner ear issue and cannot handle movement and rotation. So he's sitting there and he's like, if you guys turn this thing, I'm going to throw up all over the stage. So what they did is he basically sat on a stool and kind of held on as they turned it a quarter turn. And then they would do a couple songs, and then he would sit again and wait and turn another quarter turn and do it. And so they did this throughout the whole song. So each group got front row seats going around for 2 or 3 songs as they rotated around.
Oh my goodness!
I always thought that was I was always pretty fascinated by that place, just because you have to run all your cables through the middle or something, holes that go underneath it, and then run through I don't know how they do that, but
they have it in the center. They have an area where all the cables feed down through the center, and then that just comes out to 2 areas. One is a soundboard that the band provides, and then one is the soundboard for the actual Celebrity Theater. Now that's probably one of the favorites that I have. But I have so many venues that are just really great venues in this town. We have the MIM, well, the Mesa Art Center that you guys were at.
Great, yeah.
Yes.
Talking Stick, their ballroom and both their showroom are really nice venues. The Van Buren is a nice place.
I've been in there, yeah. Great.
Okay. And for outdoor, Ak-Chin is really good.
It is.
The Pavilion is really good. Even the Mesa Amphitheater is very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got all these venues, and we got a lot of local clubs.
I wanted to ask you about that. But real quick, did you ever do anything at the Orpheum?
Yes, I did. I did Tredeschi Trucks.
Okay.
And
that's a nice place too, sound wise.
Yes,
it
was very, very nice and everything. Yeah. They had a kind of a VIP pit area.
Okay, yeah.
It was just kind of like the orchestra pit, and I was in there photographing. I was probably the only photographer there that night.
Okay.
And everything else, because they weren't that well known unless you knew the Allman Brothers.
Yeah.
now we're dating ourselves again here. If you knew
Yeah.
Oh,
Because-
good stuff.
Yeah, because Trucks is the son, I think, of the drummer that was in the Allman Brothers. But
yeah,
Derek
Yes.
Trucks has played with the surviving members of the Allman Brothers band.
And Derek Trucks is a phenomenal guitar player too. I got a chance to see him open up for Eric Johnson at the Cajun House over in Scottsdale, and that was before it was Tedeschi Trucks. It was just the Derek Trucks band, and it was just him, and he came out and ripped it apart.
And
It was
Susan
awesome.
Susan is also amazing.
Now, what do we got here?
Okay. You probably are all too young to know who this is, and probably most of the people on the podcast. This is Arthur Brown. Okay. You'll know his song as soon as you hear it. Fire. I am the hell god of fire. I'm the hell god, and I bring you fire. That was the song that was a huge hit back in the 60s.
Well, I'm going to look that up, but I saw this picture and I was like, "Woo, what's up with this?" Yeah.
I know I was trying to place who that was, but I have no clue. No clue.
This was Carl Palmer's first band that he was in. Big band that he was in. Because he was in with the Arthur Brown, or the Crazy World of Arthur Brown.
Did they all dress up like this?
No, just Arthur.
Okay. I thought maybe it was like, it's kind of like a Genesis thing where what's his name just kind of had some weird costumes,
This brings up a good point, Fred. Have you noticed a difference and I can say this with you, over the decades from something like this where it was so much more of a performance and more of a theatrical thing with the music and, the visual. Going to a concert was really, we talk about, going to a show, but it was really a show back then. And nowadays where some artists maybe don't put in as much effort as you would see back in the day.
It's okay. We'll really go back. In the 60s, and I'm talking the mid 60s, most bands would get on stage and just stand there and this is our next song. This is our next hit. This is our next whatever. And they would just play.
Kind of like the Beatles. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot like the Beatles. Probably the Who and the Stones were the first to really do crazy stuff on stage, along with, of course, the God himself, Jimi Hendrix. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
They actually did stuff. And then you started to get some bands that started to do a little more of theatrical things. Arthur Brown with his show, who was the beginning of shock rock. Okay, This is Alice Cooper. Got
Before
a
Alice
lot
Cooper.
of stuff from him. Peter Gabriel and Genesis.
Yes, yeah.
Peter Gabriel used to dress up all the time in different costumes and everything. And when he would perform. So you would get that. But I mean, you even look at the Doors. There were concerts where Jim Morrison would turn his back on the audience and sing to the drummer. You had
very unorthodox.
Yeah, very, very. So you had that back then. So it goes in waves. In probably the early 70s, I think, when the push was made for stadium rock, when they started filling stadiums, the bands all thought they had to actually then really put on a show. Because, example, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, you had Carl Palmer up on his drum kit would raise in the air, and he would it would rotate and everything else. This was pre Tommy Lee and Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Okay. Keith Emerson had a piano at California Jam that actually spun while he was playing it, a grand piano, and it would spin while he was playing. You had Alice Cooper with all the different antics he was doing. And so people were really putting more into their show and everything else. A lot of that, though, comes about because they could afford to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They were making good money and everything else to really put these shows on. I mean, the bands didn't make a lot of money touring and everything else, but they did okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now today, you get the big bands that are doing Kiss, for example, did it. Tool, they did a big production and everything else. You get somebody like Slipknot, Alice Cooper, even they put on a really good theatrical show even today. But you get a lot of bands that they're in a bus and they're basically they got a U-Haul being pulled behind the bus that holds part of their equipment, and they're just going from venue to venue and just trying to make money.
Here's one of those bands right now, the Dixie Drags.
No, Drags. They got rid
of the Dixie part, didn't they?
Yes, they are now just known as the Drags and everything. This is a two reasons I love this shot. This is 5 different photos.
What?
Oh, wow.
This is 5 different photos that I took.
What did you put them together or something?
Yes, I stitched them together so that it would be contiguous across the whole thing.
That's
wow.
Man,
that is an amazing shot.
Had you not said that.
And the other thing that's unique about this particular concert, these guys hadn't got together for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
They've all been off doing their own thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think the violin player, can't think of his name right now. He's a dentist.
Pont? It's not a Pont.
No. It's not Jean-Luc Ponty. No, this is the Dixie Drags original lineup.
Okay.
But it's like on the far left is Andy West, the bass player, and next to him is Steve Morris.
Oh, I love that guy. He's messing around with the Purple.
Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Yep. He is in the latest version of Deep Purple.
I shouldn't say mess around. He's serious.
They had to take time. He had to take time off so that the Drags could tour together again, because they wanted to do one big tour together.
Yeah, these guys are fantastic. Who's the keyboard player? That's the original keyboard player, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Steve Davikowski.
Okay.
Yeah. Alan Sloan is the violin player. I'm looking at. I got that same picture up on my wall, and I have all the band members' names on it. And Andy West was nice enough to sign it for me. And hopefully, when Steve Morris comes back into town with Deep Purple, I'm going to get him to sign too.
Are they coming back into town? Because I'll go see them, man.
I've been hearing rumbling that Deep Purple might be touring again, but I don't know who Deep Purple is this time. Is it a new version of Deep Purple? Are they up to like 10 or 12?
Yeah. Well,
no one can count that high.
I've seen him one time with a long time ago, man. I think it was at the Coliseum with long time ago. I can't. It was one of their commercial. I shouldn't say commercial. It was the one with Perfect Strangers. Perfect Strangers.
Hey, I even go back farther. I saw him in 73 or 74. I can't remember the right time at Big Sur.
Oh my goodness.
In Tempe?
Yep.
So I take it you're native to Phoenix.
No. I've been here since 1973 though.
Okay.
I grew up in just outside of Toledo, Ohio.
Okay, so you know what?
Wow.
I wanted to go back to one thing before James puts another picture up here. We started talking about clubs because, and I know some people that are listening to this, they're not from here, but I'm just kind of interested. We won't talk a whole lot about it, but one of the places that did you ever do anything in the jar?
The Mason jar?
Yeah, the
No.
Mason.
I
Okay.
was never in the Mason jar. I did doolies.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk about like what clubs now are doing stuff like this. You know, you don't, it's like Phoenix kind of fell off the map a little bit. You know,
It kind of did there for a little bit, but we're getting a lot of real small bar kind of clubs. I was at a place last night called the Starlight. It's at 43rd Avenue and Olive.
Okay. I have heard of that place. Yes.
Okay. And I saw 4 bands there last night, 2 of which are local bands that I know them and everything else, and I go and photograph them whenever they're around. But that's one. There's another one on the west side called the 44 Sports Grill and Night Light.
Okay. But
and
what was
it's got a nice stage, and they're renovating it and everything else.
who was the main band you went to see at the Starlight?
Who?
Do you
The touring band was Old Blood.
Okay, so what are they like?
They are a metal band, but
Okay.
they're not a screaming metal band.
Okay.
They're really dynamic, little short lady, and I was talking to her last night and everything else, and they're very, very good. But the bands I went to see are Empire of Desire and Barkin, both local bands here in town. Very, very good bands.
Okay.
Who would you say is the best? I don't want to say the best band. I want to be more specific. The best local hard rock band, maybe in the vein of a Motley Crue, a Tesla, a Skid Row, a Rat, an 80s LA scene band.
The Black Moods.
The Black Moods. I keep hearing about this band, but I have not heard of them.
Are they newer?
I saw them a couple of weeks ago. They were out at Talking Stick showroom. They brought the house down. They were so good. The review is up on my site.
I saw it.
It's a quickie. They reminded me a lot of Foo Fighters.
Okay.
In the style of music.
Yeah.
And their lead singer guitarist reminded me of a young Peter Frampton. He had the moves, the guitar moves, the onstage presence. He was even dressed in the white, and he had the same kind of hair as Peter Frampton.
Wow.
And so it was really a great show. And if anybody gets the chance to see them, they are amazing.
Black Moods. Okay. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, we got to check them out because you told us about that at the Dream Theater show, and then I've heard a couple other people mention that band as well, and I just got to get some time and check them out for sure. Has there ever been a band, Fred, that I know we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show how they kind of give you the first 3 songs and then kind of get out of our way a little bit, but has there ever been a brand that you noticed maybe embraced the photographers or maybe played to the photographers a little bit and you would kind of look forward to them? Oh, they're coming back. They were really good to us before. They have fun with it, or we have a great time shooting them.
This one people are not going to necessarily believe.
Oh.
War.
Who?
War.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they love being photographed, man.
Those guys love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to shoot the entire show. I get the first 3 songs in the pit, and then I get to go in the audience. I get to shoot the whole show. They are great. Now, another band I really like, okay, they're not as big, the Iron Maidens, the female band.
I know
they are really nice ladies. They love to be photographed. And I've even done a couple videos that I've captured for them, and I've given them the videos. That is one thing as a concert photographer, no video. Almost exclusively no video unless you're asked. Okay? Because that's copyright infringement.
Now, isn't that
so interesting.
Isn't that where Nita Strauss came from?
YouTube videos up of the music at a concert, you're breaking the law. Okay. Typically, bands don't go after you, but someone like me, they would go after. So I can't do it.
And you obviously would not want to jeopardize that relationship and being able to go do what you love. So that makes sense.
And so that's why even local bands, I do not put any video of a local band up. I will do it. I will give it to them so that they can do a YouTube channel or they can put it up on Facebook or wherever. I'm looking at doing a YouTube channel for those bands that don't want to do it. Local bands that don't want to do it. I will put it up, but with their permission.
Right.
Okay. That way there's no issue. And that gives them a little bit of coverage also.
Well, let me tell you, that's a fantastic thing right there, because not only just to have somebody shoot your show, like from a photographer perspective, but if you have somebody that's willing to do a channel for you and do all that legwork, because let me tell you, it's a lot to do, but you would do it really well, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. Now, isn't that where Nita Strauss came from as the Iron Maidens?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's where she got her big break.
Yeah. And does she still play with them?
No, she's on her own now, and she's touring. She actually performs with Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper, yeah, she's in Alice Cooper's band, and then she's got her own solo dates too.
Yeah. Each year, Alice Cooper here in the Phoenix area does a kind of a combination concert, stage show, and auction for the two solid rock teen centers that he has here in the Valley, one in Phoenix and one in Mesa now. And they collect money from the auction to basically get the equipment and pay the rent and everything else. So it's free for the kids to show up.
That's awesome.
And they can learn how to play music. They can learn photography. They can learn how to do video. They dance. Alice's wife Cheryl is actually a dance instructor.
Okay.
And so she would work with the people there doing the dance stuff and everything else. And it's really they're both very, very nice places. Well, Alice every year does this, and it's one of the things he has a number of his friends show up to perform. So like he had Ace Frehley this last year. And he was supposed to have Tom Morello.
Yeah.
Okay. From Rage Against the Machine. He was supposed to be there, but he tore up his ankle playing basketball with his son.
Playing who?
Thanksgiving. So he couldn't show up. So they had another lady step in. But
you talk about a guy that has some energy. That's Tom Morello. I don't know if you guys have ever had a chance to see his Maximum Fire podcast or Maximum Firepower, I think it's called. But he is so much fun to listen to him interview people. Oh, man.
Well, he's a really nice guy. But anyways, back to Nina. Alice and the band were playing at that night at the event. She could not show up because she was still out on tour on her solo tour. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see Nina show up. But the picture that you had of Alice there at that show, Nina was one of the guitarists that night at that on that show, and she was really, really good.
Yeah,
she is phenomenal, and that she was also selected to be. She's the in-house guitar player for the new LA Rams stadium out there in LA. So before the games and during the game, she's like shredding away on the guitar. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What I was going to ask at one of the places that James and I were in there the other night is at the old Coliseum, Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And just walking in there brought back a lot of memories for myself, going to concerts. Man, I'm not going to get into a big list of, but there was a website I was looking at in there where this guy had he had it showed all the pictures of people that he had taken in that venue, photoflashbacks.com or something like that. But going back all the way into to the Beatles in the Coliseum. Have you, and you know what? I looked at it today and I think they're working on it again or something. I don't know. But did you ever get a chance to do anything in there in the Coliseum?
I did a number of shows there. But it kind of shut down a little bit in the late 70s because they started going and doing stadiums and stuff like that instead. And sound-wise, it really wasn't the greatest sound-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great for the Suns basketball because I mean, you could really bring the house down with the noise level and everything. But for a concert, it was okay.
It was almost too live in there.
But probably one of the best shows I ever saw in my life was in that venue. I saw Bruce Springsteen in 1976 when he did Born to the Run tour.
Okay.
Wow.
And that is classic.
I had 6 row seats at that show. Didn't have a camera at the time, but he put on like a 2.5 to 3 hour show. And it was just amazing. I didn't have a voice for a day and a half, and my hearing was gone for the next morning. Because I mean, I was right in front of the speakers.
Right.
That's one thing I've always heard about Bruce Springsteen shows is they are long and they are legendary.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore. He's cut back to about 2 hours.
Well, that's still pretty long, man.
That's still a good.
Yeah, that's a long time, especially if you're not playing 20-minute songs like Dream Theater does,
Yeah.
What do you got there, James? Okay. Oh, I know who these guys are.
Tell us what we got here, Fred.
This is Tommy. I can't pronounce his last name. Sorry. From Camelot.
Yep.
And Charlotte Wessel. She used to be from Delenn. She was the lead singer of Delenn. Okay. She's now gone off on her own, and she's doing a solo career of her own. And she came out for one of the songs that night because they were the underbill for Camelot. And she and Tommy were basically kind of doing this duet on stage. And these are the kind of moments that I also love to get. Yes. I love to get the interaction between members of a band. This one is great because they're both singing to each other. I have other ones where I'll get like the guitarist and the bass player, they'll be back to back and everything else and kind of leaning back and playing guitar or whatever and the bass together. Those are kind of the shots that I try to go for because they show the emotion that the band is going through. And this also helps. The crowd gets into it.
Oh yeah, big time. Camelot is one of my favorite bands. We got to talk about them, James. I'll get you turned on to them, man. They're like they're. I wouldn't say they're real proggy, but they're classified as a prog metal band.
Okay.
Yes.
And they now, Fred, have you seen these guys with the original singer?
No, I have not. I've only seen him with Tommy.
That guy is. Anyway, I don't want to get it up, but this guy is really great too, and I've seen them a couple times actually. And yeah, they do have that female singer that either tours with them or comes with another band, and yeah, comes out and does duets with them. That's just part of their show, and they're great. And
Lauren Hart, she's that Lauren Hart. She's that little singer that just has this booming guttural voice that I mean, she is just amazing. You see her, and it's like you figure you're going to get this squeaky little voice. She just belts it out.
Powerhouse, huh?
She is a power. And I mean, she can rip it just like any guy out there on stage.
Yeah.
And now she has her own band called Once Human.
Once Human. Okay.
And they were supposed to be here in town last fall.
Yeah, they canceled.
They had to cancel because they had 2 people in their bus that broke out with COVID.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And so they had to cancel at the last minute.
Yeah, I think I was planning on going to that show, and then it was like this time of the year, last year, I think, something like that.
Fred, it's been 40 years plus for you in the photography business, and this might be too much of a question to ask, but is there that one picture out of all this time, especially as it relates to concerts, that you're just like, that's my gem, that's the one, whether it was because of the memory of the night or the way you got the lighting, or is there that one shot, or maybe is there that one shot that you missed?
You had the picture up, Carl Palmer.
That is a good one, man.
Huge fan of ELP, and that one, I just technically got everything right in that. I got the expression, I got the arm movements and everything, and it was just totally in focus and everything, and it was just great. I mean, that is probably my pride and joy shot. I got a poster hanging here in my office of that.
Now, is there a way to make posters out of pictures? I mean, obviously you did it, but you have to have someone do it for you, or?
I have a company that I have do it for me that does all my printing. You can print yourself. It's very expensive and very time consuming. I found that I used to use Costco here in town, and they did all my stuff, and they were amazing. But then Costco shut down all their local printing stations, and you have to go to their online version.
Okay. So you can't go buy ink there anymore?
What?
You can't go buy ink at Costco anymore?
No, you can buy ink, but you can't have your photos printed there at the store. You used to have 1 hour printing. So I used to be able to take stuff in and get it printed, and then the next day be able to get it to the band.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, it was a great turnaround. Now, if you do it online, it's 2 weeks.
Oh boy.
So it takes a little longer to do stuff. And especially if I'm going to give a picture to a band member, I have to do that 2 weeks in advance thinking and everything, where before I could just, the day of the show, I could just go and get stuff printed.
Is that part of your normal process, Fred? Is communicating with the band after a show, and maybe, or if it's just a particular band that you like, or maybe it was a good night and they were nice to you and you were nice to them, and you struck that relationship and said, hey, I got some really good shots here tonight, I'd love to share them with you if you can, point me in the right direction or give me an email address, or how does that all work?
There are some bands that absolutely require that you give them access to any of the pictures you take. You sign a release form basically saying that you will give them access to all the pictures, and if they want to use any of the pictures, they can use them and just give you credit for it.
Okay.
A lot of photographers don't like that. I don't care. I'm in this for the pure love of photography and concerts. And like a lot of the local bands, I don't charge them anything. And I know I'm probably going against what all the photographers and all the people that are trying to break into the business are trying to do. But I feel that these guys are busting their tails for next to nothing.
Yeah.
You get a lot of these local bands, they're getting $50 to maybe $200 to perform. Some are just like, we'll give you a free slot, you can perform, but we're not going to give you anything.
Yeah.
And
I've been in a few of those bands.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's really hard for them. I mean, they're trying to come up with their own equipment and doing all that stuff. and then me trying to charge for it, I feel bad. So I give them photographs that they can use if they want. And most of it is just they post on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And like I said, with some of the videos that I'm doing now for the band, they'll post on YouTube or they'll do it on a Facebook or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been a time before when, Fred, when maybe a band has contacted you and said, hey, we've seen some of your work, or we were referred to you by XYZ, and we'd love to have you come shoot our show. We'll be in town, second week in May or whatever the case may be?
I'm actually starting to get more of that now.
That's
Where
awesome.
bands are actually contacting me. And it's usually through the publicists and the record labels that I'm getting it, because they know who I am. They know the quality of work I've done. They know that I'm very professional in what I do. The one thing that you have to know as a concert photographer, you do what they tell you to do.
Mm-hmm.
You show up at the gig. If they tell you you're shooting from the soundboard, you're shooting from the soundboard. If they say 3 songs, you do 3 songs. You can get
Just
into
play by the rules.
You can get yourself blackballed. I ran into a situation just a little while ago where I had contacted the venue to get permission, and there was kind of a mess up. I contacted the band because I happened to know the band, the tour manager or promoter of the band. Contacted them. They said, "Oh yeah, no problem." And I said, "Well, can I shoot the whole show?" Because there was special things going on. I'm not going to go into more detail because I'm not going to cause any grief for certain people. And they said, "Yeah, no problem. You can shoot the whole show." Well, I go to the venue. I'm shooting and everything else. First 3 songs. Then I sit down and everything else, and I'm shooting from a seat and everything else. Security comes over and says, "You got to leave. You're past the first 3 songs." And so I went over and I talked to them and one of the other people, and I said, "But they gave me permission to shoot the whole show." "No, we only give you 3 songs." So there's kind of some gray area every once in a while that you might run into with that. But typically, if the tour manager says, "This is what you have to do," you do it. And you don't argue with them. Because that's the fastest way to get blackballed. And when that happens, it goes all up and down the chain. And so you might do it for one band, and then all of a sudden you find that all the other bands under this record label will not deal with you anymore. So you have to be very, very careful. The other thing is, I do not go backstage.
I was getting
invited. Okay. The bands are very busy. They want their rest and relaxation time before and after the show. If they've got VIP going on, they've got to deal with all of that stuff. After show, a lot of times they have their friends, family, whatever, that show up. So unless I'm invited, I never go backstage.
It sounds like you're able to maintain a level of professionalism, and that's allowed you to do it as long as you have and maintain that relationship with the band, knowing that, hey, Fred's not going to take advantage of us. He's going to be respectful of us. We're going to be respectful of him. And that's got to carry a lot of weight in an industry like this, right?
Yeah, it very much is that way. And you probably will get the same if you interview different bands or members of a band and everything else. If you're respectful to them, you're nice and everything else, you don't shoot them with the "I gotcha" question or anything like that, they're more willing to work in the future with you again. And they'll tell friends about, "Hey, I worked with so-and-so and they did a great job with an interview on me and everything else." And so the next person will give you that interview. And so you have to do that. Basically, you can't be an asshole. Sorry.
It's pretty simple, isn't it? I mean, just don't be an ass.
It really is. I mean, these are people, they're highly energetic, emotional, because they're pushing everything out that they've got to the fans. As Alice Cooper says, when you're on stage, you're a god. You have an attitude. You are just the most arrogant person in the world. But as soon as you walk off that stage, you are no better than a janitor. you are just a nice person to everybody. You
Hmm.
do not carry that attitude off, because when you're on stage, they want to believe that you are the greatest. When you're off stage, you got to be the nicest.
Hmm.
And that's why Alice is such a nice person.
I never got to meet him, but he does seem like he's pretty down to earth, when I've heard him talk and stuff, interviews and stuff like that. And
And when he's not touring, you maybe hit him on a golf course.
yeah.
He loves to hit the links for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Fred, now we heard the disclaimer about I don't go backstage unless I'm invited. Now, as we move to the after hours portion of the show, no, I'm just kidding. Tell us about maybe a couple times you were invited backstage, a fun time that it was maybe unexpected. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to go shoot this band that I wanted to shoot. And then they invited me back and everything went great for the show. And I got to go on the bus and meet the rest of the band. Or tell us about something like that. Maybe that's happened.
One of the earliest ones that I did that happened was Charlie Daniels.
Mm.
This was back in like 79. He was playing at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum.
Oh,
Okay.
right. Okay.
Was it that one? No.
That was
there.
old.
I can't remember. But anyways, I got to go backstage and I got to meet Charlie and Dickie Betts and all those guys that were back there. And Charlie was this huge presence. I mean, physically huge. I mean, the guy was like 6'6" and it had really broad shoulders. I mean, he looked like he could be a linebacker in the NFL. Okay. Sweetest guy you ever wanted to meet. Just nice. All of them were really nice and everything else. Didn't take pictures back there. Just kind of hung with the guys and everything else. And it was just very, very nice.
Right on, man. That's
another time that you maintain your professionalism but it's got to be tempting to want to kind of, especially nowadays with the ease of being able to just grab the cell phone and say, hey, look, real quick, let's get a picture, like we always do it at concerts nowadays. You want to fanboy a little bit here and there, right?
There is some temptation to do that. I typically do not. The only time I really do that is if I'm getting them to sign something. I maybe get myself with them when they're signing something. But that's typically all that I ever do. Now, I have taken, every once in a while, you'll get, especially some of the older bands, they'll be selling their merchandise and the lead guy will come out and he'll do a kind of a meet and greet and he'll sign stuff for you if you buy it.
Yeah.
And so every once in a while I'll do something like that because, like I said, my sister is older than me. Some of the bands like Tommy James and the Shondells or Felix Cavalier, the Rascals, they'll be in town and I'll buy like a CD or a DVD of their music, have them sign it, and they'll send it to my sister.
Sure.
Yeah, wow, yeah. Well, we don't want to keep you too long, man, but what I do want to do is I want to talk about your we got who's
we got to talk about this one last picture we got right here. That's pretty awesome.
Yes, that's Jakob of Sabaton. I can't pronounce his last name. He's from Sweden and everything else.
Are they like metal or?
They're classified as a power metal band.
Okay.
Okay, for those people that don't know, a power metal band is a band that their songs are singable. You sing along with the songs.
Okay.
Iron Maiden, Sabaton, Judas Priest. These are power metal bands. They typically have at least two guitarists, and they have a very dynamic front person in there.
He looks like it.
Oh yeah,
like the guy.
Oh yeah, he's built. I mean, he works out and everything else, and he is extremely muscular, and he is all over the stage. Now, this is probably one of the younger bands that I like, the newer bands, but they've been around a while. It's just in the United States, we don't pick up on European bands that quickly.
Yeah.
It takes us a long time to do it. I mean, they're
True.
big in Europe for a good 5 to 10 years before they hit the States and get anything.
Mm-hmm.
And what seems to hold true.
Yeah. Where is this? Where what venue is this?
This one was at Marquee.
Okay. All right.
And they're also the songs that they do are all military style songs, but they're based on heroic acts or things like that were done. They're one of their albums that they did was The Last Stand, which talked about the bravery of certain people or groups in an unwinnable battle and what happened. One of the songs is the 300 Spartans.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that a lot of people know. But then they also have songs about Audie Murray.
Oh yeah, Audie Murray. Yeah.
Okay, and what he did at Anzio. They have things about how the Devil Dogs, the Marines in World War I, got their name at the Battle of Ardennes.
Wow.
Okay, so they go through and they do a lot of different songs. They have one Bismarck. They have one on the Red Baron. But they do a lot of that kind of stuff, and they're all typically 3 to 5 minute songs. So they have a very easy catchphrase in them and everything else, and people just sing along.
Would you say there's kind of like an older Iron Maiden type?
This is the young Iron Maiden.
A young Iron, that's what yeah. That's what I meant, younger, older, like in the 80s type.
Yes.
Shorter songs. Maiden's starting to progress out now, but yeah, shorter songs back then, but catchy. Like you could sing them.
Yeah, and like I think my first review I did of them, I basically said, "This is probably the next Iron Maiden."
Hey, all right.
I mean, they are that good. They were supposed to tour with Judas Priest last year when the guitarist for Judas Priest had his heart issues.
Oh, yeah. So we were talking about that, yeah.
And so now Judas Priest is going to be touring with, or Queensryche is touring with Judas Priest now.
Right.
But yeah, this is probably one of my favorite newer bands. And like I said, newer meaning I first saw them and they first really started getting big in the United States in 2016. But hell, they were big in Europe a good 5-7 years prior to that.
Right.
Well, if they're able to get over here with Priest and get on that tour, if it happens, that would definitely help them break out here in the U.S.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're not, because Priest Sabaton had other commitments back in Europe, and they couldn't get out of the countries. That was a big problem that a lot of bands were having, is they couldn't get into the United States because of the COVID restrictions.
Maiden was one of those, actually, because they got a new album out and they can't tour over here for it. But they'll get over here eventually, hopefully. And man, you introduced me to a couple bands I'm going to check out tonight, and that's one reason what I wanted to kind of segue into this, because we don't want to keep you too long, man. We appreciate your time tonight, but I did want to talk about your website, which is
right on cue.
beneathAdesertsky.com for everybody out there. Just like it's, say it just like you, or you spell it just like it, if you can spell, you can find this website.
Unfortunately, the pictures are showing up.
There we go. I was going to say, let me refresh that there. There we go.
It's beautiful, guys. And you know what? Here's what looking over this. It has concert information. It has news. It has reviews. It has photo. It has everything in there, and not just local stuff. I mean, they're talking. You're talking about all these bands. It's great, great information. Great information.
Well, thank you.
A really nicely done site, Fred. It's easy to read. You can find what you want to find really quickly, and as we expect from you now, the photographs are magnificent.
Yes. And he covers all kind of music too, not just the stuff that we're talking about here, but so I noticed there was some EDMs, comedians.
Oh yeah.
And what was your favorite comedian to do?
I love Kathleen Madigan.
Okay. Yeah.
She has a dry humor. I actually got to meet Kathleen.
Okay.
She was one of the ones that I got to go backstage for.
All
They
right.
invited me backstage, but she's a very nice lady, and we were talking and everything else, and she was telling just hilarious stories of her and Louis Black when they did a tour across Canada.
Okay. But yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. So anyway, you guys check this. Go ahead.
For you guys, you'll like this one. I saw Rick Wakeman the other night.
I saw that on there.
Keyboardist for Yes,
Yes.
and he's in a band called ARW, Anderson, Ribbon, and Wakeman. Okay, 3 members of Yes.
Okay.
And anyways, he was telling the story about how they were out and they were in LA, and their manager comes up and goes, "You guys, you got to get ready. You got to go down to this radio or this television station and everything else. You got to get interviewed and all this kind of stuff." So they're kind of like, yeah, whatever. So they get down there and everything else, and here they have 2 women and a man sitting on chairs that are going to interview them and everything, and they're 3 of them are on chairs on the other side. So the first woman goes, they all have clipboards. All the women all the interviewers have clipboards, and they have all this stuff written on the clipboard. So the first woman goes, Jan Anderson, what were you thinking when you wrote "Owner of a Lonely Heart"? And Jan Anderson goes, "Nothing." And she kind of looks down at her paper, and he goes, "I didn't write it." And so when they're all looking at their Rick says they're all looking at their clipboards and everything else, trying to figure out what they're gonna do. So then they go, Rick Wakeman, where were you when you came up with the idea for "Owner of a Lonely Heart"? And he goes, "Nowhere." And they're like, "What?" And he goes, "I wasn't in the band at the time."
Yeah.
So of course now Trevor's the only guy left. Okay.
Boy.
And so of course the last interviewer has got it down and everything and just knows exactly what the question is. So she goes, "Trevor, where were you when you came up with the idea of Owner of a Lonely Heart? There's their only #1, Yes's #1 song ever." And Rick Wakeman's just going, "Oh, please don't ask him that question. Don't ask him that question." Trevor goes, "I was sitting on the toilet." The interviewers all their heads, they said, just went down on the paper and everything. And the moral of this story is, when you're interviewing somebody, you have to at least understand what is going on. You just can't have a piece of paper in front of you that basically has information, because you're going to screw it up. You got to do a little bit of research.
You got to do a little bit of research and make sure that you're asking maybe some questions that are in context, or just kind of halfway be present, right, Fred?
Yeah, and then this is going back to, you got to listen to the music of the bands before you go see the band, so you can have an appreciation of what's going to happen.
Right. Now, do you what things do you got? What do you have any big shows coming up in the near future? I'll tell you who I'm going to go see. I'm going to go see Ingve when he comes. I've been telling James this for a long time.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
I have seen Ingve. He was with G3 or Generation X.
Okay.
It was Tobin from
Tobin
Animal-
Abasi or whatever his name, the 7-string guy, right?
8.
Hey,
Eight.
whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I have a problem playing a 6-string, you know. And
But it was him, Zach Wild, Steve Vai,
yeah.
Ingve, and Betancourt.
Oh,
Wow,
what a lineup.
man.
Okay. And I mean, these guys just had Marshalls completely across the entire stage at the marquee. I mean, it was just packed
Man.
with Marshall amps and double stacks from side to side. But Ingve was amazing that night.
Yeah.
So
he's
yes,
great,
I'm
man.
looking forward to possibly doing that show. Going to Priest.
I thought they were canceled. I look on your website and
No, their fall show was canceled due to the drummer or due to the guitarist being out. I have to update. I have to update the website to basically say they're coming back. I just haven't gotten it.
Okay.
Al Jardine is coming back to town again,
Hmm.
so I'll go do that. Dragon Force is coming.
really?
Ooh.
Okay.
And they're going to be at a little club out in Mesa called the Nile.
Okay, yeah, I know where that is.
And they have 2 of my favorite young bands. Unleash the Archers out of Vancouver
Okay.
and Visions of Atlantis, which is a conglomerate of a number of people from different countries in Europe.
Okay.
You mentioned both those bands to us before.
Yeah,
Both of them are fronted by very, very good female singers.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
anyway, Visions of Atlantis is going to be with Dragon Force. Unleash the Archers was just here a while back and everything else. Let's see, who else is coming to town? Unfortunately, I wanted to see Symphony X, but I won't be able to make that show.
When is that?
June 2nd.
Oh, I'm going to that, man. I've been wanting to see it for a long
Great
time.
show.
Yeah.
That'll really be a good show. Yeah, I've got 4 shows starting the 15th. I can't remember them all right now, but some of it starts blurring after a period of time.
Oh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine a stack of hard drives. Now, do you have? We won't keep you much longer here, Fred, but I know we said that a little bit ago. But it's fascinating talking with you and learning some stuff about your perspective of things. What about old photos? Have you digitized a lot of those old photos and being able to keep those for a while, or what goes on there?
I haven't done it yet. Part of the problem was I couldn't get a video card for a long time. Anybody who had a PC can understand the last year you could not buy a video card.
Yes.
Just were not available. I finally got my video card after the first of the year, and I built my new PC so I can actually start doing processing. So I'm going to be getting a scanner so I can start scanning all of my old photos. I've got black and white. I've got color negatives. I got color slides.
And you'll be adding those to the website, we assume.
Possibly.
Okay.
You
will be adding them to the website. And the reason I say possibly is the website is for my reviewing and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
I have a Flickr site that I maintain that I put all the bands and everything else on, and they have more content.
I don't know how Flickr works. How do you get to that?
It's just www.flickr.com.
And then what do we look for?
For me, it's Daggett 2.
Daggett.
Number 2.
How do you spell it? Daggete.
T, the number 2.
Okay. Everybody hear that? Daggete, the number 2.
Okay. Most people will either remember Daggett from Battlestar Galactica.
Mm-hmm.
That was that little mechanical dog in the original Battlestar Galactica.
We're going way back.
Okay. Or Daggett was one of the beavers in Angry Beavers.
Mm. All right. Yeah. Well, we'll make sure we put that stuff on this.
Daggett, because I was like Daggett on there. I was crazy and everything.
I like it.
But
so
yeah,
it's flickr.com/Daggett2, Daggett2.
Correct.
Excellent stuff.
Or if you just get on Flickr and you just put in Daggett 2, you'll find it. I typically, on the review on Beneath the Desert Sky, I'll maybe have between 15 and 25 pictures of a band to give a flavor of it. Mm-hmm. When you go to Flickr, there'll be like 50 to 150.
Okay, very nice.
There's
very
more
good.
content there.
Yeah,
very nice stuff.
We put a link. Maybe we can put a link or something on this podcast so people can go over there, along with your website.
Well, thank you.
That's sure. We'll put that link on there. Absolutely.
Yeah, people like yourself or bands or whatever, just like you do, and we
Fred,
doing it, so
we appreciate your time more than you know here tonight. It's been fascinating getting to know you a little bit more and share some of your experiences here on the Valley music scene. We appreciate you spending the evening with us and sharing some of your fantastic work. His website, once again, is beneaththedesertsky.com. And you can also get him on Flickr. It's flickr.com/Daggett2, Daggett2.
No, one T.
Just one T.
One
right?
T. Okay, Daggett2.
The number 2.
Very
the
good.
number 2.
Yes.
Okay. Can I add one?
Yeah, man. Hey, whatever you need. Yeah, whatever you got, go for it.
Please, people, if you go to a concert, buy merchandise, buy a T-shirt, buy an album, buy a CD, buy a patch. The band gets money for this so that they can continue touring and writing music. They get very little from you streaming on Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, or whatever. The merchandise is where they make their money. So please, if you want live music, help the bands out.
Amen.
That is great stuff right there, Fred. We endorse that 100,000,000%. The music business way different nowadays than it used to be. Obviously, back in the day, bands actually made a couple of dollars anyway, at least off of the music and the albums and tapes that they sold. But everything has changed with the digital game in play now, and they rely on those live shows, which is why they hurt so bad during the coronavirus pandemic, because they couldn't get out and play and sell that merchandise and get those funds coming in. So great message there from Fred, and support those bands, whether they be national bands that come through, out at the pavilion, or if it's a local band, selling, just starting out, trying to sell a couple T-shirts, grab one of them.
Get one. Definitely do that. Amen. That was. I'm glad you said that, Fred. I'm glad you said that. People need to understand that. But
thanks again for your time, Fred. We appreciate it, and it's been another great
road, man. Yeah, we're gonna see you down. I'll come up and say hey to you or something if I see you at a show, and hopefully you remember us. We'll.
I'll remember you guys.
Oh yeah, we will connect again for sure.
Oh yeah.
Thank you again, pal, for joining us. We appreciate it, and have yourself a great evening.
You too.
Thank you, Fred. See you, man.